Hello, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today I'm here to talk about the movie The Marvels. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. That background is not The Marvels. That's Marvels by Alex Ross. Let me fix that. All right, there we go. Wait a minute. No, that is. No, that is. Once again, that is The Marvels. It's got but this is once again this is a comic by Alex Ross, not the movie. There we go. There's the movie. That's the fun part about naming your superheroes after your company. I wonder why there's no DC man. Know what I'm saying? Although there is technically a DC Comics because the DC stands for Detective Comics. But where was I? All right. So you may have heard that Marvel's latest movie, The Marvels, has been out in theaters, and it is not doing well, or at least not doing well for a Marvel movie. The film opened to over $42 million, if I have my numbers correctly, which is the lowest ever Marvel movie opening, although it's still money that the Blue Beetle movie would have been very happy to make at its opening, all things considered. Although, to be fair, Blue Beetle probably cost about half as much as this movie did to make. I don't know the actual budget, but based on Marvel's recent budgets, probably safe. Probably safe bet. But it's a shame that the Marvels is doing poorly at the box office. Why is it a shame? Well, because it's actually pretty good. I actually had a good time with it. Took my mom, and despite the fact that she knows very little about most Marvel characters, she still enjoyed it too. Which was actually an important thing for me to test because this movie does rely on the audience being familiar with not just the previous Captain Marvel movie, but also the events of WandaVision and, of course, the show Miss Marvel, which is very good, by the way. Let's talk a little bit about the movie and what it is. So, first of all, The Marvels features these three characters who are technically Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and in the comic books, also called Captain Marvel. Although, in fairness, this Captain Marvel was at one point known as Miss Marvel in the comic books. So we got Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and technically other Captain Marvel who at no point in this movie will be referred to as Captain Marvel. Now, The Marvels follows the events of, well, all three of those other things I listed: Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and WandaVision. But the basic gist is that this woman here, Captain Marvel, she, at the end of Captain Marvel, flew to an alien planet called the Kree, not to be confused with the Native Americans, and blew up the AI that ruled their society because that AI had led them into a devastatingly genocidal war against the Skrulls. And this movie is sort of about her dealing with the fallout from that choice, because once she killed that AI, the Kree fell into a gigantic civil war that spanned the galaxies, as the Kree had previously colonized 25% of the known universe, which is an amount that puts the Empire of Great Britain to shame, to say the least. Although, also, shame on the Kree, we don't like that about the British Empire. Now, as the movie opens, we meet our villain, Dar-Benn, played by Zawe Ashton. She looks familiar, but I'm honestly not sure what I've seen her in prior. I could look it up, I guess, on the IMDb, but I won't. But she does an admirable job as a villain who is okay. Not the greatest villain in the MCU, but I will say that her motivations are sound. her plans are horrifically genocidal for how she's going to save her own people. And interestingly enough, the overall plot does basically map onto the worst possible scenarios for alien invasions of Earth. You know, them coming here to steal our resources like oxygen, water, or the sun. At the start of the movie, she discovers a metal wristband that gives her the ability to essentially create her own portals that allow them to traverse space at the speed of light. However, there were supposed to be two of these wristbands, and the other one belongs to Miss Marvel. I swear to God, if this image inverts and I'm pointing to the wrong people at the same time when this video is finished, I will lose my shit. But anyways, this Miss Marvel, who for some reason doesn't have it in this poster, it should be on that arm, I think. Let's got this backwards. Has the other band. Now, this new villain, Dar-Benn, not the most intimidating name, fair. Nor is she the most super memorable villain. Some people have said that she is worse than Malekith, the Dark Elf, but that is simply not true. Why is it not true? Because I don't know what the heck, I do not remember what Malekith was doing. And at least Dar-Benn's plan, I could tell you exactly what it is, and it would make sense to me. I honestly don't remember what the hell Malekith was doing, and she definitely has more screen time than Malekith ever did. Still, she's like we have General Zod at home type deal. You know what I mean? Diet Zod, that kind of thing. It's like similar deal, but not as memorable. A couple steps down. The generic version, Zod generic, if you will. That being said, Zawe Ashton does a fine job with what she is given. Meanwhile, her discovery of this wristband, plus the broken portal transportation system, the damage caused by her use of the wristband, leads to a situation where all the Marvels here end up getting their powers entangled, meaning that if either of them use their powers at the same time, they will switch places in time and space. This is a primary element of both the plot, the action, and the comedy of the movie. And it's actually this element is well used. There was a part of me that thought it might be annoying, but actually the way they use it is good. It leads to some nice comedic moments, but also, and I cannot stress this enough, this movie's action is in massive improvement on the first Captain Marvel movie. I'm sorry, but if there was one thing I docked points on the first Captain Marvel from, it was having generally only adequate action scenes. The fact that they do this teleporting thing really livens up the action scenes, and the action scenes in general are just choreographed better and use long shots and all that fun stuff you want in your action scenes that some people forget to put in there. The gimmick is well used throughout the movie and even has some nice Zack Snyder style little shots where people are running and jumping and flying through the air. The slow-mo doesn't last as long as Zack Snyder, but they're essentially Zack Snyder shots. There was one of my clients dragged me to see Paw Patrol, also has a Zack Snyder shot in it. Never underestimate the influence of Zack Snyder, is what I'm saying. But let's move on. So the action is significantly better than the previous Captain Marvel movie, because I do consider this a Captain Marvel movie. Although arguably it is also a Miss Marvel movie. A lot of it really does seem like Miss Marvel is the character at the center of this, even though technically plot-wise it is this Marvel. So that's interesting element there. But honestly, she steals the show. I will say that okay, so Marvel, the next teenager or young person character you make for this universe, don't make them a giant fanboy. I mean, like, I get it, but like, I don't want a team that is all just entirely nerds who go, "Oh my god, an Avenger!" It works for her character. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I can't help but notice that the new Hawkeye, wasn't she also like a fanboy of Hawkeye? I can't remember. I did not like that show. Liked her show. Didn't like Hawkeye. Thought it was trash, to be completely honest. Miss Marvel, I recommend that. Now, Miss Marvel over here is played by Iman Vellani. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But is the Miss Marvel is really the only role I've seen her in. But she is apparently, actually, in real life, a huge fan of this character and is even going to be writing her comic book for Marvel, which I think is pretty cool, to be honest. Um, Miss Marvel Miss Marvel is actually one of the characters that's been created recently in the history of Marvel Comics, where it's like, yeah, that's cool as fuck. She is a teenage Muslim girl who has to balance her superheroing life with being, well, a teenage Muslim girl and all the complications that come along with being a teenage Muslim girl who is also a superhero. Now, it is worth noting that in the comic books, she has like Mr. Fantastic style powers, but for whatever reason, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has changed this to give her um, Green Lanternish style powers. I I don't know why. I don't really fully understand it. It's one of the weirdest changes between the source material and an adaptation that I've seen in superheroes. Although it's never as terrible as, like all the weird powers they gave Superman in the Christopher Reeves movies, like mind erasing kisses, flying around the planet to go through time, or throwing the symbol on his cape at people, which I'm pretty sure was a Richard Lester ad. But let's move on to the other characters. This character right here is Captain Marvel in this universe. Previously in the comic books, she was known as Miss Marvel until the dude who was Captain Marvel died. I think of cancer. Was it cancer he died of? I don't know. It's considered the first graphic novel, The Death of Captain Marvel. I've never read it, but it is historically important. But anyways, he died and Miss Marvel became Captain Marvel. Now in this universe, Captain Marvel, that Captain Marvel is actually a woman also. But she dies in the first Captain Marvel. And not of cancer. But Brie Larson here plays the contemporary Captain Marvel to the MCU. And frankly, that's fine. Now, another thing that might be noteworthy from the actually back in the day, the male Captain Marvel, is that Captain Marvel had a thing where he would switch places. He would be summoned to Earth by switching physical places with Marvel's official sidekick, who's never been in a single MCU movie, Rick Jones, who is known best for being the Hulk sidekick, Captain Marvel's sidekick, and also at one point being mistaken by Captain America for Bucky. That's right. I'm talking Rick Jones, who for some reason Marvel is not putting in a movie. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a big Rick Jones fan. How come there ain't a Rick Jones in even a single fucking Hulk movie? Like, he's so interconnected into the lore of the Hulk that I can't believe that not a single appearance of the Hulk even features reference to Rick Jones. But like I said, Rick Jones also was tied to Captain Marvel. in a very interesting makes that Captain Marvel more like DC's Captain Marvel in a weird way. But then over here we also have here. This is Monica Rambeau, played by uh, Teyona Paris, and she's been doing a bang up job as this character. All these women here doing a bang up job, by the way. But she plays Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of um, I forget the other Rambo's name. But the point is, Maria Rambeau, that's what it is, played by Lashana Lynch in some flashbacks here. Now, the thing the thing here about this character is that there was also a period of time where their name was Captain Marvel. Yeah, no, there's actually been a ridiculous number of Captain Marvels in comic books. These two here plus the dude aren't even the I aren't even the end of Captain Marvels. There's also a character in Marvel called Marvel Boy, and then there was a Captain Marvel character who wasn't published by DC or Marvel, who's, and I'm not making this up, his power was that his arms, legs, and head could fall off of his torso. I shit you not. Um, but this Monica over here, she is also Captain Marvel in the comics, although in the movie they never call her that. She was a character from the 70s, fun fact. One of the early black superheroes at Marvel. Now, I actually don't know if her powers differ super much from the comic book because I have not read a single comic book where she is Captain Marvel. I'm sorry. I just haven't. But in the MCU, she gets her powers by walking through by trying to go through a witch hex that was previously put in place to, now I'm forgetting how WandaVision ended. The point is she got her powers a completely different way, but all their powers are vaguely light based. She is like a Superman character who gets her powers from the light. And she can also blast energy out of her hands. She, of course, has like Green Lantern style, like turns light into physical matter type deal. And Monica over here can like phase through things and shoot lasers from her hands. So, decent variety of powers and abilities there. Now, so basically what happens in the movie is that one character I talked to you about, Darbin, she basically, like I said, her plan is to go to some planets, as they say in the trailer, every world that this Captain Marvel has called home, and then go there and steal whatever one of the three resources that her planet has destroyed. That's really her plan, and she does it with these sort of like, I forget what they call jump points. That's what they call these weird teleporting gates that act as like a way for them to do essentially faster than light travel. Now, I won't lie. I enjoyed the movie a lot. In fact, actually, I would put this above Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, for sure. Probably, I haven't quite decided if I like it or Blue Beetle better. I think it's still below the Flash, though. I have figured this out. Despite its flaws, I think I have to put the Flash above Blue Beetle just for being more ambitious and having like just a couple key moments that really elevate it. Not sure where I'm putting this yet, and it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which had a much more elevated sense to it. This is just fun. This is a solid, good, actiony, adventure-y, not too long. It's under 2 hours. It is an hour and 45 minutes, making its other record to be the shortest Marvel movie. Now, the thing that Marvel does have going for it is that it looks good. The special effects, there's no mind-blowing special effects, but in a year with so many movies that have shoddy special effects, not even just superhero movies. I don't know if you saw I don't know if you saw like the Expendables 4, but the CGI in that movie is not good. And then you have the Flash, which is wildly inconsistent CGI, where it's really good here and then terrible over here. And then you had things like Quantum Mania, which was just like very mid, uninspired CGI. Still not the worst Ant-Man movie though. Looking at you, Ant-Man 2. It's been a rough year for CGI, which is wild because last year ended with fucking Avatar: Way of the Water, which, as much as it's 48 frames per second cinematography made me want to put my fist through some drywall. Graphically, graphically it was absurdly detailed visually. Um, like CGI skin that looks like fucking skin. That's a gross sentence for some reason. All the acting is good. And I would say that all the acting in the movie is good, including these three characters, Anzawi Ashton and Miss Marvel's Muslim family are a great source of um, comedic relief. In fact, I don't know. I saw this movie twice because one of my clients wanted to see it. And the second time I saw it, there was one guy who almost always laughed at things that the dad said in that theater, like consistently. Everything the mom and dad did, he was laughing. I was like, oh, and he had a distinctive laugh too. So I was like, oh, that guy really digs the family humor. And what was interesting is I didn't hear him laugh at a lot of the other jokes, but he consistently laughed at that family, at the things the family was saying. I there's a decent level of comedy. Um, a lot of it does come from like places that I'm cool with comedy coming from, sort of like the connections between the characters. And there's also some weird stuff in there involving this alien cat and how the film chooses to use the alien cat as a transportation method. I the film That's actually one thing the film foreshadows decently. In the first Captain Marvel movie, when we see the cat eat people, we assume they're dead, just like no going back. But in this movie, it's shown that like it takes a long time for these cats to digest people. They can easily just spit stuff up all the time. um so that the people it swallows are more just like hairball type situation. I don't know, there's got to be some type of like, I don't know how that works, what's going on with that alien cat species. But the film does a decent job of making sure we understand that its powers don't have to be lethal before or later using them as a plot device. Solidly done, to be honest. Now, like I mentioned before, the action in this one is way better than the first Captain Marvel. That's just something I consider to be overall massive improvement in on this one. Solid superhero fight scenes. Now, the script is solid, but like there are some themes to the film of like how sometimes regime change blows up in your fucking face. And see, this is the thing, is that at the end of the day, this is more of just a fun superhero flick. Like it doesn't have the subtext of a lot of other. In fact, that's actually why I have to put it below Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because there's a lot more thematically going on in that movie than in this one. So at the end of the day, like the main thing I can say here is a negative to the script is just that it's not that deep. It's a fun little intergalactic adventure with some mild themes of how, like, sometimes when you try to do the right thing, you might actually fuck things up for everybody else. So you can't just, run in and in a government of a country just because you don't like that country or planet or alien species. She thought she was setting them free by destroying their AI dictator. Although, in fairness, she did have to do something. The AI dictator was waging a genocidal war across the galaxy. So one does wonder her other choice was in that specific situation. In terms of criticisms of the movie, like real criticisms, not just saying, oh, it's not that deep, because it's not that deep. It's just a fun action adventure. Oh, actually, I will say this. Here's another way in which it improves upon the first Captain Marvel. So when DC beat the MCU to making a standalone woman superhero movie with Wonder Woman, the first Captain Marvel movie tried way too hard to make sure we understood the feminist context for things. Now the thing is that to be fair, Wonder Woman had it easier. Wonder Woman's feminism is in Wonder Woman's fucking DNA. It was created by Charles Malton, or as his real name was, William Marston Moulton, or Moulton Marston. Hold on. William Moulton Marston, who was himself a feminist and had very specific feminist reasons that went into the choices he made with Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman has feminism in its DNA. Wonder Woman didn't have to try that hard for the feminism to come out. Captain Marvel tried very hard. To be fair, it probably still would have gone over a lot of people who don't know anything about feminism's head, but there were a lot of ham-fisted choices. I'm not saying they were all bad choices, but having come out after Wonder Woman, it made it feel like the movie was trying harder than it should have. The nice thing about Miss Marvel is that it doesn't have to try that hard. Hell, just by having these be the three main characters, and there not being a love interest of any kind, the movie passes a Bechdel test. And it doesn't. And it doesn't even feel forced or ham-fisted in any single way. Now, you could say that technically Captain Marvel's character, and this is a minor spoiler, is married to an alien guy for legal reasons, to an alien prince for like legal reasons to help protect his kingdom. But he's not a real romantic interest. And anyways, the majority of the conversation and scenes aren't about him. My point being is that this movie doesn't really force anything or shove any type of messaging in our faces. It just allows us to see women being women and succeeding and having adventures. And in that way, it is both feminist and well done. The movie also actually directed by a Black woman. Now, the previous Captain Marvel was directed by a man and a woman, because Marvel at that point still wouldn't just let a woman direct a Marvel movie. Frustratingly, the track record for that is not going to look good. Personally, I thought the Eternals was great, but everyone else gave that movie shit for no reason. I don't know. It was also directed by a woman. That's what I'm saying, but it's not really important. Let's move on. So what are my complaints? Because I never actually got into my complaints when I brought up complaints a minute ago. So here they. So my criticisms of the film is that there are some weird edits specifically. Most of the editing is good, but there's more than one occasion where there will be an off-screen voiceover of a character saying some sort of information. It happens maybe 3 or 4 times. I wish I could remember a better example, because this example is kind of spoilery. But there's a part in the movie where a character gets both the wristbands, and a voice from off screen says, "But wait, your body won't be able to take the power or something, and it'll kill you." Now, the thing is that the movie's already given us that information, that was a possibility. But in this scene, a character off screen who wasn't present for that original information is the person who says it. Most of the voiceovers are Kamala Khan's. That's Miss Marvel over here. And I don't know. It makes it feel like something was cut out, or like they did a test screening, and the morons who always attend test screenings, because let's be honest, the people who attend test screenings are morons, probably said they got confused, and so they had her record some lines that they would throw in to edits when her character is off camera, which you would have felt. Which and these weren't um like when movies add jokes off camera like that, thing that comedian Patton Oswalt has talked about. No, these are like specific. Hey, audience, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Don't be surprised, type of deal. And that was kind of weird. I can't help but wonder what was going on there when they went to edit it. And I guess I would have to say that that was the most noticeable complaint I had during the movie. Was just that, those weird little edits here and there. Is it a fair criticism that our villain here isn't the most exciting villain ever? Yeah, it's a fair complaint. But I think people that compare her to villains like Malekith are making it sound worse than it actually is. Her character is at least clearly motivated, and her actions, while extreme, make sense in the context of what her options are. I've heard some people say they thought her plan was stupid, and maybe it is. But like a lot of supervillains have stupid plans. Like Baron Zemo's plan in Civil War, kind of fucking nonsense. Or using a microwave ray emitter to vaporize fear toxin to spread through a city, kind of the most outlandish thing that's ever happened in a Christopher Nolan Batman movie. So my point is that maybe it is a stupid villain idea, but villains have stupid ideas in these movies all the time. Oh, Thanos. Thanos got a gauntlet of infinite power. Instead of choosing to make more resources in the universe, he chose to have the overall population of every planet in the universe. Yeah, totally makes sense there, Thanos. You went through a hero's journey for that. Great job. I actually think that might all be all I really have to say about the movie. It's fun, it's simple, it's colorful, and it is actually a marked improvement on the previous Captain Marvel in a couple key ways. One could argue that there was more to the storyline of the first Captain Marvel movie, and that's fair, I guess. But I was much more entertained here, and I had more fun with the characters here. And there wasn't a weird scene where Nick Fury looked at an alien's penis and forced that alien's undercover friend to also look at the penis. It was a dead alien, by the way. Also, it's one of the most inexplicably what the fuck were they thinking scenes I've ever seen in an MCU movie. It's very like, what is this joke? Did Disney approve this joke? Where was I? Right. This movie, though, this movie is fun and simple. It's not the most complicated Marvel movie. It's not the dumbest Marvel movie. It's just, generally speaking, a solid fun time. And I'm actually very disappointed that it has bombed so hard. I hope that maybe it will have legs in the future, but it's not looking good, which is unfortunate. Because the Marvels is solid. It's a good time. So yes, I definitely recommend the Marvels. So long as you're not looking for something profound or deep, but something's just generally speaking a fun time. If you want something deep, I guess go watch Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese. Well, anyways, thank you for watching or listening to this. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel and follow on Spotify. If you would like to communicate with me for some inexplicable reason, you can email the show at rubenuncut@gmail.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever you are. So I was editing this video, and I realized I never talked about the after credit scene. So maybe it's appropriate that this moment also sort of kind of be an after credit scene. My cat is over here. But so the after credit scene for the Marvels. What do I think of it? Honestly, it's one of the more interesting after credit scenes I've seen in a while. Is it setting up the Deadpool movie? Is Monica Rambeau going to be part of the Deadpool movie? Honestly, wouldn't be surprised. Or opposed. The Deadpool is the only Marvel feature film coming out next year, which is going to be different. Now, next year, in fact, next year, it's going to be the first comic. It's going to be the first year in a while where essentially Sony's Spider-Verse is going to be dominating the cinemas in terms of superhero movies being released, with the only big comic book releases from Marvel and DC into the cinematic landscape will be Joker 2, which should be interesting, but with it being a musical, and Deadpool 3. Yeah. Deadpool 3 going to be the universe crossover. I know everyone's like exhausted with multiverse apparently, but come on, man, you got to hang in there for Deadpool, right? Right? I think it's pretty clear now that like the reason Marvel Studios is doing this is to make sure that X-Men and Spider-Man can become like fixtures of the MCU. We'll see how well it goes. But yeah, no, the actual scene itself, it makes sense to it's a cool touch to have her mom kind of be like I guess the X-Men universe equivalent of Captain Marvel. Although I think I caught it right that her name was Binary. I haven't looked that up though. Hold on one second. Oh, that's interesting. So Binary is Carol Danvers' duplicate. So in the comics, she is actually another form of Captain Marvel's character. It says she's from Earth 616, which is supposed to be the main one. The name was originally adopted by Carol Danvers when she was able to physically tap into the primal forces of a white hole and the very fabric of the universe. But yeah, having Monica's mom be Binary in this universe, the X-Men universe, apparently. It's a cool touch. They brought Kelsey Grammer's Beast back, which is interesting because I would have thought Nicholas Hoult was the one who was still on contract. But maybe they somehow when they did the X-Men movies, the contracts ended up being a little bit more weirder than that. But overall, I'd say it's a solid after credit scene. It certainly does get me excited for Deadpool 3. Vaguely surprised it didn't mention Deadpool directly in it, to be honest. But yeah, should be interesting. Kelsey Grammer back in the spotlight. Frasier reboot. Wait, is it a reboot? It technically is in continuity with the other one, so it's really more of a sequel. I think we're just addicted to the words reboot. But yeah, I guess this is I guess this is all I really have to say.